You've reached Monster 911, and I'm Lance Hightower. I've been taking cryptid emergency calls for over 5 years. If you have a cryptid emergency, please call our toll-free number, 866-306-8085. I can help you. What's your emergency? Hey there, everyone. Thank you for tuning in once again to another episode of Monster 911, the only cryptid podcast dedicated to honestly helping its listeners and contributors share their true paranormal encounter, which allows the eyewitness to begin that all-important healing process, coping with an unheard-of creature encounter. I'm so thrilled to see how many of you are enjoying the podcast out there. Every time I get to read your comments, it brings a smile to my face, and I really like seeing some of you guys just on the comments. It's so gracious and kind of you. I sincerely appreciate all the comments and where you're listening from, as well as the United States. We've got listeners in Denmark, Australia, Germany, the Netherlands, as well as the UK, India, and Mexico. And I'm super interested to hear from you if you've had an encounter from a country other than America, just like this next story, which is straight out of central Mexico. The next eyewitness remembers growing up with his family herding cattle high up in the mountains near a small village where he lived. He had heard stories passed down from the nomadic Mexican Indians who lived in a nearby remote mountain range of large creatures that take cattle and take people. But he never really believed in any of those stories. That is, until late one night, while with his family monitoring the cattle, he saw something that he's never shared with anyone before. So listen now to his exclusive account of what happened that moonlit night when his uncle shot something that didn't go down.
My part of the family, they're from Zacatecas, Mexico, which is south of Mexico City. I want to say we're about 8 hours from Mexico City. And in the area that we live in is all like mountains, and pretty much just mountains is what we live in. So our area where we live at has a lot of history. It has a lot of natives there too. They have a lot of the native people that live there. They're called Yaquis.
Yaquis?
In America, yes, Yaquis.
Okay.
And in America, they call them just Indians, natives. Like here in America, we got the Buffalo Clan and we have the Winnebago Clan, stuff like that. But in our country, these are legitimate natives. I'm talking about they still dress in uniform, they talk their language, they believe in their old rituals, and stuff like that. Not like here that they're more civilized. They have their own lands and they live just like us. Just
right.
Like regular people.
You're just saying they live more how they used to and occupy the lands that they used to, and they probably live a lot nomadically how they used to, is what you're saying. They probably still have the same traditions, same ways and everything, and very little's changed.
I'm saying that it's funny that we speak about the natives because that's where we got a lot of information from. And that's where the natives explained to us that what we were witnessing and we were experiencing wasn't nothing to do with witchcraft. But my grandfather and grandmother at the time, they were really superstitious and they believed it was witchcraft. But the one story that I can tell you that I personally witnessed, that to this day, I've not spoken to nobody about it till just now. My fiance shared with me, and she was telling me what was it about, and I was telling her, look, don't be scared, but this happened years ago, and I've not said nothing to nobody except for the people that were there, like my dad and my grandfather and my uncle. And you can't really go and tell people stories like this because they think you're crazy.
Oh, I know.
I hear people. Yes, I hear people sometimes tell me stories, on different things, different subjects. And other people look at them like, yeah, they're crazy. That's not possible. But when you see something yourself, like I did, and like my father and my grandfather and my uncle did, you start to believe that there's no way that what we've been told is the only thing, meaning that there's no way we're the only things or the only humans or the only species I should say, in this world. There's got to be more to it. We just don't understand how come it's not being mentioned as much. That being said, I would like to tell you this one particular story. So I must have been about 15 years old. I'm 31 now, so it's been a long time, from this first encounter. So in our area, at a certain time of night, in the summertime, since it's really hot in the day, they tend not to work during the day. What they do is they wait for the moon to be up, and they go out and work at midnight, from like midnight to 5 in the morning. And the type of work that we did up in the mountains or on our land was cutting down, how do you say it in English? Crops of corn? Yeah, crops of corn.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And then also, calabaza. How do you say calabaza in English? Like squashes, maybe, yeah, squash.
Oh, yeah.
Like little baby pumpkins, squash, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So we did a lot of stuff like that. Well, we have a lot of cattle. When I say we have a lot of cattle, we have a lot of cattle. We have something like, I don't know now, but I know then we had about 500 to 600 heads of cattle.
Wow.
So we couldn't keep them in one place all the time. We had to travel up into the mountains to go find places like they call them manarios. Manarios are places that throw natural water. And so there's big old lakes, not lakes, but big old, like miniature ponds that are just constantly flowing water. So we take the cattle out to the coast of that area. We stay in the mountain overnight and have the cattle eat grass up in the range, in the free wild, and drink water, and then bring them back, after a couple of days or a week, maybe sometimes even longer. But what happened one time was it was me and my younger uncle. I'm 31 now, so my uncle, he's got to be about 38 years old now. He was a little bit older than me. He was the smallest out of the family. So this is my dad's brother. He was a little bit up higher in the mountain from me. I must have been about a mile lower on the side of the mountain to where he was. And I should know he came back screaming, saying there was a witch stealing the cattle. So, me being a person that does not believe in none of that stuff, or never believed in it, I should say, I told him, come on, let's go back up there. And, we went up there with the rifle. That's all we had. He had one, I had one, so we went back up there, but we did not see nothing at the glance of an eye or anything at the moment. And at that moment that we were there, but as we camped in that area where he said the cattle was a baby calf, I should say. A baby calf was taken from, somewhere like around 4 in the morning, we heard, they're called quintaneras. They're like small rocks, but they're real fine rocks. And we find them in the riverbanks or the canals, and we use those to scrub our body and stuff like that. And they don't harm their skin or nothing. But anyhow, we heard rocks being thrown at us. So my uncle gets up, and I get up, and he says it was a witch, a lechuza, is what they call them. Lechuzas. It's like a witch that can transform into different animals, I guess. And I told him, I said, it's not a lechuza, it's just someone playing games with us. And then, I want to say maybe not 2 seconds after I said that, something big, I'm talking about big, just came out of like the growth of the trees are called mesquites, and I think you pronounce them mesquite trees in English.
Oh, mesquite.
Yeah, I think that's what they're called. So, these trees aren't too big, but they're big enough that they can cover somebody because they got a lot of bushes and thorns on them. And it came out from behind 2 trees. And I got a good glance at it. So the thing was that when it came out, it didn't come out standing or walking. Okay, it came out like on all 4 legs, like hands and legs, I should say, kind of like a monkey would. But it was huge, man. This thing was huge. I mean, we don't have no monkeys. We're not in Durango. Durango is a border close to us. They're tropical. They got monkeys. I'm not sure what type of race of monkeys they have or gorillas, but they have stuff like that. We do not have that. Okay, we're not anywhere near the border of Durango or even Chiapas to have stuff like that. And Chiapas is another border close to us. So anyhow, I seen it, and my only reaction was to freeze. I could not move. I was like shock, I guess is what you want to say. I was in shock. So I couldn't move. And I remember hearing my uncle running while he pretty much left me behind. He was scared. I can't blame him, He was scared. Maybe if my reaction was to run and his was to be in shock, he would have stayed there and I would have ran. I don't know. But the furry-looking thing, the monkey-looking thing, or gorilla, whatever you want to call it looking thing, just stood there and looked at me for, I want to say 30 seconds, and then it hopped. It jumped up and hopped. It stayed up and it just jumped. It jumped, like it jumped. And that's when I noticed really how big this thing was. And I seen the hair on it. And I seen how his whole body was full of hair. And mind you, it's late at night, it's like 4 o'clock in the morning. The moon's out, so you can only see as much as the moon permits you to see.
Right.
So when it hopped, I want to say it hopped, or when it jumped, I want to say it jumped maybe, oh my God, maybe 4 feet, 5 feet. That's how long his jump was. And he disappeared behind more trees. And these trees are called quiotes. And quiotes are a rare tree that I don't think a lot of people have them around in Mexico. But this tree, you can cut it down and it doesn't weigh much. You can literally pick it up. It's like a cardboard tree. I don't know how to explain it. But when it jumped into those trees, it knocked one over. And at that time, I reacted and I ran towards the direction my uncle ran. Didn't look back, did not do nothing. Just kept running. We left the cattle, everything. We traveled the 2 hours back into town or to the country where we lived. I told my grandfather and my dad, and they were upset. They said that what we seen must have been a lion because we have African lions, like the ones they have in Africa with the big old beards and stuff like that. So we have lions up there. So he says we must have seen a lion. But they wouldn't believe me. Okay? They would not believe me, and I would not go back to the mountains. I told them I would never go to the mountains again to go take care of the cattle. Maybe 2 weeks passed by, and my grandfather and my dad and my uncle and me, the same uncle that was with me when we seen that big animal, we're up in the mountains looking for some cattle that had gotten loose, and so we're looking for them, and it got dark, and we stayed there, and again, in the middle of the night, we heard rocks being thrown at us again. And I knew what it was. I knew what it was instantly. But this time, my senses were active. Like, I could hear, I could feel, I could smell, I can see a little bit beyond what I was normally seeing back then. And I had a smell come to me. Like a stinking smell. Like how do I describe it? Like a wet dog stinking smell. I don't know, just like 3 or 4 times stronger. And I was looking, and my grandfather happened to turn around, and he sees a shadow, and he says, it's a bruja, it's una lechuza, meaning that it was a witch. And he started to do the cross symbol, and started saying Ave Maria, which is like a prayer for, like, under the name of the Virgin Mary. And my father's always been the type of guy that doesn't believe in religion, does not believe in the devil, none of that stuff. So he started to say something in the words of, I'm going to go get this son of a buck. And he ran forward. When he did that, the animal came out of the clearance where he was hiding, and we all seen it, man. And it was standing this time. And when we all see it, my grandfather's reaction was to shoot at it. But he hit it. He hit the animal, okay? He hit this big thing. He hits it. And the animal just starts charging forward, and my dad ran back, I ran, everybody ran. I remember my uncle fell as he was trying to run, and my grandpa shot it again. So in that time, my grandfather had a real old rifle, but it had big bullets. I cannot recall what kind of bullets, okay, but big bullets. I'm talking about these bullets. If you hunted an animal with it and you hit it, it was going down. There was no ifs or buts about it. The animal was going to go down if you hit it in the right spot. I seen him hunt deer with it. I seen him hunt lions with it over there, and even pumas, because they had pumas. And one shot, it would kill it automatically. You hit a big hole. He hit this animal maybe twice that I can recall, and the animal still kept charging. Somehow or another, he shot a third time and hit it on one of the legs, and that's what made it stop. but he was so close to us, we could see it, man. It was just a big human thing. It wasn't a lechuza like they keep thinking it is. It wasn't a witch. It was nothing like that, okay? It was a big human look-alike, except that it was hairy. It was hairy. It had big hands. I mean, the hands, if I was to sit back now and think about it, that hand could literally grab me by the face and maybe cover my whole head. That's how big these hands were. This animal or this human being, whatever it may be, was at least, oh my God, we do everything by meters, by meters. So if you calculate that to feet, this animal might be something like 10 feet, maybe 11 feet tall at most. I mean, it was huge.
Wow.
Okay? So, to this day, even me telling the story right now, I'm sweating. I'm like, it's like I'm reliving me being there. I cried that time when I seen that, you know? I started to want to think that maybe my grandfather and my dad and even my grandma were right, that this animal was a witch. And, you know, our culture there believes that witches come from people when these people are bad or when somebody else are doing witchcraft on them, you know? Mm-hmm. And I cried. I remember crying, and we like, somehow or another, I don't recall how we left or if we even jumped on the truck and took off when we got to the truck. I don't remember. I just remember that I cried. My uncle was crying. My grandfather just kept praying, saying that this was something from the devil, that we should never been up there in the mountains because there's some mines really close there. And he was saying that that's where the evil spirits were coming from. And I remember telling my grandfather, now mind you, I'm still young. I was like 14 or 15, maybe 15. I told my grandfather, Abuelo, if this is something from the devil, something bad, then why did it stop when you shoot it? It should have kept coming at us if it was something bad. You can't kill an evil demon, or you can't, at least I don't think you can, okay? I don't think you can kill a demon. I don't think you can harm a spirit, an evil thing. I said, now, if it was a witch, they told me before when I was a kid, when it's a witch, if you shoot it, you kill it, in whatever form the witch is in, somebody in town is going to wake up dead the next day, and you will know who it was. Nobody in town woke up injured or hurt. Normally, it's ladies that transform into lechuzas, and then they can transform into different animals. Nobody woke up, hurt or nothing, okay? So, like I said, right now I'm sweating just thinking about it. My body's hot. I'm kind of reliving this like it was yesterday because I remember it. I remember it so closely. We had so many encounters with this animal, this human being, or whatever you want to call it. The Yankee said that it was a spirit from a different realm that could come in, okay? That could come in, man, how do you explain, like a portal, like a time portal or something. But I asked the Yankees, how would they know this? Do they believe in spiritual realms? And they said, yes. They said this animal's been there for ages. It goes and comes as it pleases. But I told them, if it's a spirit animal, why would it hurt our cattle? Why would it take them? He says, well, these animals, they have to eat. He says, there's some that are good and some that are bad. He says, and they eat. Okay, now we had cases of missing children around that time, and I remember this because I was always a bad kid. I would always jump and go up to the mountains and hike and sleep in the mountains, and whenever I got mad at my family, then my grandmother, which was the one that made me raise me in Mexico, she would always tell me, please, Mijo, don't go to the mountains. There's evil things out there that keep taking the kids. Now I wonder if these kids that disappeared are the cause of this animal, of this Bigfoot, what you guys call it here, Bigfoot or Sasquatch here in the States, if it's something that has to do with that. Or if it was really witches like my grandma said. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what to think it is. I just know that I've been keeping up with you guys' show. A friend of mine showed me a video on, was it a recorded video? I think it was a conversation with either you and somebody else, and they were talking about how the government came in and took the dead animal and covered it up, and then they tried to silence the people that had initially called the cops, and they got in trouble by the cops and even arrested the person.
Yes.
So, that being said, we don't have authority over there. We don't have stuff like that. We're a small village of maybe, right now, of what I know, the village is only maybe 5,000 people. Back then it was bigger, but people migrated to the States like we did. So, back then it might have been maybe 8,000, 9,000 people. But we were not civilized. So we believed in all this awkward stuff, witchcraft, and mainly witchcraft. So we weren't civilized. We didn't know what to think. But me talking to the Yaquis and my uncle too, and even my dad, we remembered this. And I remember telling my dad, I'm following a page on Facebook, on YouTube, and they're talking about a Sasquatch, a Bigfoot. I said, different places got different names for it. But what we do remember the Yaquis say one time was, El Pie Grande. El Pie Grande means the Bigfoot, okay? A Bigfoot, meaning because of the size of his foot. And that's one thing that we would always find in the mountains, big old footprints. So I told my dad, if these Yaquis, these native people, know about it, what's the odds that they're correct? I don't know what to believe if it does go and come, as they say, from a different realm, because that does not sound like something that might be possible. But then again, I do not know. What I do know is what I've seen and what happened in that area. And there was even a guy, oh my God, I almost forgot about this. I don't know why I didn't think about this. There was a guy that came from America, that his family were born in our town. The town is called San Juan de Cosalima. San Juan de Cosalima. Okay, and this guy came down there because we have a lot of wild deer and, like I said, lions and stuff like that. So he came down there with like 6 other people to hunt for lions and deer. And we also have a lot of wild boars. Boars, I guess, like a big pig, just a wild pig in the mountains. So he came down there to hunt. Now, I do not know what kind of guns they had or what kind of rifles. I do not know none of that. I just know that these guys killed one. But the one that they killed, and there's pictures of it, I don't know how I could get you pictures so I could show you. But I can find out, I can call my dad and see if my dad still has communication with these people. And if the people that lived there in Mexico still at this time, if they would give him the pictures or at least let us take pictures, like with a cell phone or something, okay? But there is pictures, okay? There's pictures of it. There's proof of it.
Wow. So, yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great to get. Yeah, if they had pictures of these, and they killed one out there.
Yes, these people went out there, but so there's a different thing also that happens with us. I've not personally seen this. It might have, how do I say it? We have people that have claimed they have seen giants, but they're people, except that they say they have a lot of different fingers. Instead of having 5, they might have 6 or 7. I don't know. I don't recall how the story was. But we have those type of people, and these are people. This is redhead people for some reason. Big redhead people, and they're really violent, okay? Even the Yaquis talk about it. So when they were out hunting, they encountered something similar to that big person. They had a big stake, and they tried to attack them. They shot back at it or whatever, and they ran off. So that's what got them to run and try to go hunt this animal down, or this human being, because this one we want to say is a human. We just believe, in our culture, we believe these giants, they are people that did not die, that they keep living, and they live to be hundreds of years old, okay? So they thought it was what they shot at, and they ran after it. Well, somewhere down the line, they lose track of it, they leave, they keep coming back for about a week, keep coming back, hunting for this thing. And they tell the whole town. Now we got a posse of people. When I say a posse, I'm not talking about 10, 50. I'm talking about we got at least 30 to 50 people per night going into the mountains looking for this giant. Instead, a group of that 30 people, I don't know how many, because the story varies. So some say it was just one guy that shot it and killed it, that caught it by accident, that was sleeping. Another people say it was like 10 of them, and they got in a big fight or confrontation with this animal, and killed a couple of them. Which that part I know is true. There was a couple of people that got killed in this battle with the animal. I just don't know the correct story, but I'm gonna tell it the way they told me. So there was like 6 or 7 people that went one way, in like little groups of people, you know, so like 5 here, 5 there, another 5 there, and they all kind of went around the mountain in different directions to come up to the peak of the mountain. But they all were around the mountain. And so our mountains have a lot of caves. Perfect for any animal to hide in. Perfect. And these caves go in one way, come out another way, and they connect to different mountains. And the Yaquis say that these caves were used by their native people and other native people that live in their land years ago when they went to war with the Mexican military because they were taking their land. So that's what they used it for protection and to ambush the military. What military, I don't know, or anything like that, or what dates, what time this period of time was, I don't know. I just know that they were going up the mountain, and out of a cave entrance, or a rock or something moved and opened up to a cave, and a big hairy figure comes out, and he automatically grabs one person, and they said it grabbed him by the head and threw him like a cross. Like, just picked him up with the head and threw him like he was a basketball or a football. I don't know what you want to compare it to because I didn't see it. But he grabbed him by the head and threw him. Now, mind you, they're going up a mountain. So he throws him down the mountain, but they don't know if this animal crushed his head or if this animal, when he threw him, he hit rocks and crushed his head. The point is he had a crushed head. And then the animal came out attacking people, hitting them. How he hit him, I don't know either. I imagine he punched, he pushed, maybe kicked, I don't know. But he killed 3 people before everybody else or a lot of different people were managed to come out to where they heard the gunshots. They say they hit the animal over 60 to 70 times, okay, with bullets, even after it was dead. How many times did he get shot for him to go down? I don't know. But remember what I told him. My grandfather shot one. He shot it twice first. The thing just kept coming. The third time he shot it and hit him in the leg and it stopped. It fell. And the rifle that my grandfather had, like I said, it was a big bullet, okay? I'm talking about the bullet must have been at least, 3.5 inches to 4 inches long. And real thick, okay? So these guys got probably better guns, better stuff. Or maybe they don't. I do not know. But I know that the guns at that time, something like AR-15, stuff like that, those are not big bullets. I mean, yes, they'll hurt us, but hurt an animal, I mean, obviously they killed it, but how many times did they shoot it before it died? And in that process, they killed 3 people. But anyhow, they killed it. Now they're trying to figure out how to take it down. They're trying to drag it down the mountain. And it's a big animal. Somebody estimated that this animal could have easily weighed 1,000 pounds. Another person said it weighed more. Another person said it weighed less. Because they were able to drag it down. They tied it up somehow or another, and they were able to drag it down with horses and mules. And even then, the people say that when they were trying to get the mules, which are like a mixture of a donkey and a horse, when they were trying to get the animals close to that beast so they can tie it and drag it, they would not come near it. They would freak out. The mules are like donkeys. So donkeys tend to bite people, right? They were biting people, trying to push people out the way so they didn't have to get close to the animal. Somehow or another, they brought it down to the, it's called an arroyo. An arroyo is just like a little river bank of where water comes through constantly. They brought it there, and then what they decided was that they weren't going to be able to get it into the main street without a car or a truck, so they went into the town where we lived to get that. When they came back, they tied it, they brought it in, they brought it to a little thing called La Plaza, which the plaza really was just a basketball court in the center of town. And that's where we did like a little quinceañeras, some little parties and stuff like that. They brought it there, and that's where I seen it. But that animal, I want to say that the one they brought, it wasn't like a brownish, dark brownish hair looking like. It was more dark. It was like a blackish brown instead of a dark brown. And when the Yaquis came down, so all these native people in our land, they have like an elder. They call them shamans. And shamans are like, they do witchcraft and they're medicine people. They're witches. That's what I think, if anything. But they call them medicine people. They came down to the plaza, or he came down to the plaza, and he said that one there was an evil one. That was probably the one that was terrorizing our town and taking our cattle, and the disappearance with the kids may be possible with that one too. And we seen that one. They took videos of it. They took pictures of it. Anybody that had a phone that time or had a camera, they took pictures. So somebody in town's got to have pictures, if not the family that killed it or that, ended up keeping it, had pictures. Now, I know they buried the animal, or the Pie Grande, like they call it there, because they went and buried outside of our town because the medicine man, the witch guy, said it would be bad for him to be kept because more would come and they would terrorize us more. Okay? And we go back to this. The medicine man said these things were easily going to come. Like a dimension, I guess is what you can say. But to this day, like I said, people that seen it in our town would not talk about it. They were scared. They would not say nothing to the outside towns or the neighboring towns. But I know that the neighboring towns had problems too, similar to ours, with similar creatures. But they would not say nothing. They were scared. They believed this was witchcraft doing. People did not want to believe this was an actual living animal. And I believe it's a living animal. I don't know that if it's human. I don't know. But I would like to say it's some kind of human being, just like the giants that we have that roam around in our town. Except that this animal's hairy and it's big. And the giants that have been seen are much bigger and much bigger, and they have more fingers. More fingers in the hands, more fingers in the feet, and they're redhead. They look like humans, which is bigger. And Bigfoot, or Pie Grande, like we call it there, is not as big as those other giants. But it looks and it resembles a human. It's hairy and big. And they're muscular. Oh, yes, let me tell you this. They're muscular. They're not like big and fat. They're not, their chest area, even though it's hairy and everything, you can see the figure on it. It's just a real, how do you say it in English? A real, not plata, how do you say plata? Like a chest plate. It looks like just humongous, big.
Oh, okay? The pec, yeah, the pecs.
What was it?
The pecs, the muscles, the pectoralis muscles, the pecs of the chest.
Yeah, that. The muscular, big. There was one guy holding a hand. I remember the hand up, and people were telling, "Don't do it, because the witch is going to come get you." And, people, they believing that was something to do with the witch. They believed so much that there was a witch that they started going to people's houses looking for the dead body, the one that was doing the witchcraft. Even after the shaman told them that this was a being from a different realm, okay? They started going to people's houses and looking at, normally they look for old women, because that's what they believe does the witchcraft. They started going to people's houses, including ours. And my family was well respected because we didn't cause problems. We were a little bit wealthier than everybody else. My grandfather and my grandmother, they helped everybody. If they didn't have something, we would give to them. We have a lot of cattle, we have a lot of land, we sold produce. It's a different town, different state in Mexico. So we were wealthy. And we helped everybody that we could, because that's just the way they were. So they even went to our house looking for a dead person, because they said this was a witch. So I remember that, and I remember thinking to myself, okay, they didn't find nothing in town. in the village, okay? We lived a little bit outside the village. We were like the second to last house outside of the village. So I knew they didn't find nothing in the village. There was 2 houses left. Ours and another one. No, there was 3 houses. Ours and 2 more. And these are not big houses, okay? These are houses that are made out of clay and straw. They're poor people, but yet have a means of living and live good. So these were houses that at the time were made out of clay and straw, mud and straw. We had aluminum sheet for roofs, so that way it wouldn't destroy our clay and mud mixture of a roof that we had. The interior of our houses were, yes, they had sheetrock. We had framing done to the house on the inside to put sheetrock so it looked modern, but the outside was just regular mud and clay. Clay and straw. And now they go there, and I'm thinking, if they don't find out they're here, there's 2 houses left, and those are relatives of ours, not close to us, but the relatives, and they are secluded because they did not they were in some religion that they did not permit them to go out during the day. They had to wear long clothes, the woman did. So they obviously already thought wrong about them because of the way they believe, the way they dress. So I was scared. I was thinking maybe they're right. Maybe it's something to do with witchcraft. And they're going to find one of my relatives dead over there. And we're going to be looking bad. We're going to be in all sorts of hell. I mean, all these ideas are going through my head of how the town might want to burn us, how they might want to hurt us, of stoners, you name it, because they've caught people in the past doing witchcraft or believed that they were doing witchcraft, and they wanted to kill them. So I was scared. I really was scared. Finally, to get to the last 2 houses, nobody dead. And they were saying, okay, then it had to be from a different town. But now they don't want to go out of town and go find out if there's other people dead or not. So, my point is, I have not told nobody here in the States, because I've been in the States, any story like this, because they look at you crazy, man. It's just crazy. We're not crazy. We're just not understanding the things that may exist or may not exist. Because if it does not exist, and what we see is just part of our imagination, and then that's one hell of an imagination that the whole town had, because everybody's seen it.
Well, you're right on many aspects there, and we could this encounter story and multiple encounter stories that you told. It's there. We could go off for hours on this because I know that I've spoke to some other folks that are from Mexico that came into Texas, and they worked in these remote locations of laying oil fill pipe and water irrigation lines literally out in the middle of nowhere, whether it be in Mexico or Texas. And they have seen things, and now some of them will speak of, like you say, they believe because of where they grew up that there is these creatures are more of a spiritual witchcraft type, and that may be true. That may be true. I mean, who am I to say either way? But that they were flesh and blood, and they went by different names. And one gentleman told me they used to, I forgot in Spanish what he called it, but it was like the crying woman. And he said,
could I interrupt you for 1 second so I can answer your question, your question, or the name of that person that you're talking about?
Yes.
It's called La Llorona.
Yaroma?
La Llorona, the crying lady. She flies around looking for her baby that she lost in the river, or she drowned, or something like that.
That's it.
It's a really big story on that one too. Yeah.
That's it. And he would say that they actually followed the sound one night down to a river, and he saw what in his mind looked like a werewolf. That's what he called it. I think there is, you always hear the saying that there's a little bit of truth in folklore and in these stories and legends and wives' tales. I really think that there is truth in that. I think there's truth in the sense that they are flesh and blood. And, what you talked about, these redhead giants, that's fascinating because that relates to a story that many of the people listening the Kandahar giant out of Afghanistan. 13 to 15 foot red-headed giant with extra digits on its hands and toes, and it attacked some U.S. military men that were in a very remote region, in the Kandahar region and of Afghanistan, and they killed this giant and transported it out, and there were men saying, yeah, this thing weighed 12 to 1,300 pounds. So I've heard of stories in very remote locations with very few people that these giants, and again, I can't prove or disprove, I've never seen one, but you're saying that the people saw these giants. Now, what they killed, it wasn't a red-headed giant. You're saying it was more like a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot, correct?
Yes, sir. It wasn't a giant. It definitely was not. I've personally not seen a giant. I know they exist. We even have, not calligraphy, there's some type of drawings in the caves in that part of the country of Mexico that tell a tale of humans battling these giants. Okay? Because I guess at one point in time, these giants were so aggressive that they were killing whatever humans we had in that area. So I've personally not seen the giant. The people that have seen it, my grandfather's seen it, and he says, it's just a real quick story on this giant, so that way we jump back on the subject of this Bigfoot. But my grandfather said he had an encounter one time when he was younger, in his mid-20s, with the giant, and these giants, all he did was take away his carnada. Carnada means he just barely had to kill the cow, and he was dragging the cow. I think the cow was sick, and he didn't want to leave it out there, so he shot it and started cutting it into pieces. And anyhow, he had loaded it up on some kind of like dolly he had, and he was traveling home with the meat. And the giant came out, and he says the only thing the giant did was snatch the ribcage part with the leg and take off. It did not attack him. But he said this giant was human. That there was no way this was witchcraft involved, nothing in the spiritual sense or the spiritual realm or anything like that. He says this is a giant. These are people that have lived here and that will continue to live here. And he believes the only reason they are so aggressive towards people and that they kill people is because we have attacked them. We have taken their territories, and we have attacked them, and people have killed these things in the past. Now, that's why I say it wasn't a giant, because what we see, compared to what my grandfather told us he had seen, and what I seen that they had killed in town, is nowhere close to being a giant. Okay, my grandfather even said it when we seen it in town. This thing was herring, what we seen. The giants that people have encountered or have had some kind of run-in with, they look like humans. They're just big and red-headed. Okay? And they even wear sandals, not sandals, some kind of makeshift sandals. Okay? They wear it to cover their feet.
Say
that was killed did not have that.
Say that again. You were kind of muffled on that. Say that again.
Oh, sorry. So these giants, they have been known to wear makeshift shoes or sandals. Sandals sounds probably better. They make their own type of like sandals for their feet. Okay? The Bigfoot, like the one that was killed, did not have that. It just had a big long feet. Big long feet. Maybe, man, how long is that feet? I want to say I could easily put my 2 feet inside of, if I was to put my 2 feet at length, which is height, they would easily match his feet. Maybe his feet might be a little bit longer. But I could put 1 feet on top of the other, and it was close to his length of feet. And I'm only 9. I wear a size 9, so I could put easily two shoes right next to his feet, and that's how long his shoes were. I mean, his feet were. And he didn't have shoes, so he didn't have sandals like these giants. So I do believe we did not kill one of those giants, and I think it's a Bigfoot, if that's what you guys call it here, because the natives call it El Pie Grande, which translates to the same thing, the Bigfoot.
Oh, really?
Okay? Yeah, El Pie Grande. And that's what it translates to, the Bigfoot.
Could
So,
you give me, I didn't look on Google Earth. Tell me about where is this central Mexico, southeast, northeast, whereabouts in Mexico roughly is this town?
if you Google Zacatecas, Z-A, T as house, A, T as tiger, E, and then C again as house, A, and then S, that's how you spell Zacatecas. I've never done that, the Google Earth thing, but it's Zacatecas, and then the name of our town is called San Juan, S-A-N-J-U-A-N, San Juan, and then Cosalima. So T-O-S, hold on, T-O-S-A-L-I-M as Michael, and then A. San Juan de Cosalima. Oh yeah, you got to put the D-E in the middle of San and Cosalima. And that's the name of it. And we are literally, I want to say about 8 hours from Mexico City, which people call it Distrito Federal, or Guadalajara, which is the capital, I guess, of Distrito Federal. And we are literally like 8 hours. So from there to Zacatecas City, it's, like I said, 8 hours. And then from Zacatecas to us, in our village, is maybe 6 hours drive. So if you do Google it, please do tell me what you see, because I've never done Google Earth. I don't know that, I've never done it. So that would be really, really interesting to see, which I might do that today.
Yeah, I will do that for sure. Can I go back and ask a couple questions here?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So the second time that your grandfather was shooting at this, as you say that it resembled like a Bigfoot, how close were you in the meters? How close were you at that time? Well, and how close were you the first time?
Oh, the first time I was pretty, well, let's say this, I wasn't close. He was close. That animal was close. Okay, I could easily say that animal, from when they started throwing the rocks to the time that I seen it come out from the mesquite tree, he was at least 30 feet. No, it had to be longer than that. Maybe 50 feet away. No more than 50 feet away. Because I am so sure, remember I mentioned he got up and like stayed out and jumped? I am so sure, and I feel so sure right now, that if that thing wanted to jump towards me from the distance where he was at, he could easily have done that. That's how big that animal was, that Pie Grande, as we call it. He could have easily just jumped over to where I was at. So I want to say about 50 feet. You know, the reason we sleep in the mountains at night around the mesquite trees is because they got thorns and they're bushy, and they protect us from any animal like lions at night or any animal trying to come through. You'll hear it automatically going through the bushes. It cracks things, it breaks things, and so you hear it. For some reason, for one reason or another, we did not hear the animal break anything. We just heard the rocks being thrown our way. Okay? Now, one thing I left out was our cattle wasn't too far away from us. Before we heard the rocks, our cattle started acting up, and they started herding together. I think the correct word is herding. It means they all come together like next to each other because they feel that something's going to attack them. When they do stuff like that, in our country, it's because the lions are around close to us, and if they smell them, then they start getting close to each other. And they protect each other, and they protect their small calves, the baby cows, okay? So when the cattle started coming together, we didn't really get too scared. We just figured, okay, it's an animal, it could be the lions, most likely lions. We said it's going to be a lion or something, but they're not going to come close because we're here and they can smell us. They tend not to come too close. But the animals still get together in a way of protecting their babies and also protecting each other as much as they can. But when we heard the rocks coming, we knew that definitely then, right then and there, it was not a lion. And like I said, I got up, my uncle got up. It just came out of the mesquite tree. We did not hear it break nothing or anything. So I was in shock. My uncle ran. I was in shock. I could not move. This thing, I mean, it felt like an eternity when I was looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
If I was to be able to draw something, if I was good at drawing portrait, I guarantee you I could draw it inch by inch because the image is so vivid in my mind. I'm telling you, at first, I did not know what to think it was. One, because I had never seen something like that. Two, because when it straightened out and it jumped, and I seen it, I was just like, oh my God, this thing is huge. And three, people started telling me, no, it was a witch, it was a lechuza, it was a bruja, a witch that you see, you didn't see what you think you're seeing, or it was probably maybe even a lion. You know, lions jump. So it slowly started fading out of my mind, and I started kind of stepping into their realm of belief that maybe it was a lion, you know? Maybe it was a lechuza that transformed into an animal and did that. And what I had seen at the moment wasn't what I had seen. But I kept being stubborn and saying, no, I know what I've seen. That thing was not a witch. I do not believe it. I'm kind of like my dad. You know, I told him I do not believe in that. I don't believe that's what it is. But yes, I was really close to the thing. If the thing wanted to harm me, it would have harmed me. I truthfully believe, to be honest with you, sir, that these things are not bad. I just think that maybe that animal was close by and it got scared and in its way of maybe showing that, how do I put it in words? I think the animal might have been scared of us. And it just so happened that we were in his way as it was going somewhere or passing through or walking through or whatever the scenario might have been. And he got in shock just like we were, and that's why he did his little weird growling noise. And at the same time, this is another thing I forgot to mention. He did a little like a little hoot noise, like it kind of almost sounded like an owl in a way, maybe. I don't know if that makes any sense. I don't know if anybody said anything like that. And it was like whoo, whoo, like before it like jumped out, you know. And I don't know if that makes sense. That's just kind of what I heard, and then it came out. And then when I came out and I seen it, it had a little growl, like a little growl to it. Like it wasn't loud, it wasn't loud, but the growl was loud enough to where he was growling, you know. So, like I said, I don't think this animal was trying to harm us. I think he just happened to walk upon us and got scared. That's really what I think, and he just kind of got into defense mode. You know, if it would have been a human walking up on me at that age, I thought I was invincible. I would have stood up right next to him and said, come on, you know, give me your best shot. And this was not a human, but I'm just saying, you know.
Right.
As a human to another human, your intention is to, come on, give me your best shot. Let's see how tough you are. I think this animal was kind of looking at me in the same form or fashion I would have looked at another person. You know?
Right.
So
Do you go back to that town or that area? Have you been back? When was
Yes. Yes. My father still lives there, my grandfather, a couple of my uncles. I haven't been back since my grandmother passed away 2 years ago. But I did travel back at least twice a year. There's still stories. There's a bunch of, I don't know how much of the stories I can believe now. I heard, so our town, I want to say this before anything else. Our town, we don't have commissioners. We don't have police officers. Our town used to be a village. Now it's a town. So it's bigger. We got grocery stores there. We got a small little, like, miniature restaurant that's only open seasonal. We got a small pool hall. We got people that come from outside of town to come there and play and eat and stuff like that. It didn't used to be like that. Within the past 7 years, it's been changing into a town. But yet, we do not have commissioners, cops, police officers, nothing like that. Not even military, okay? There was one story that I remember the girl's name. Her name was Patricia Hernandez. And Patricia tells, she lives here in Kansas, her and her husband and her 3 kids. She's from our town. I do not know if, I do not recall the correct way of the story. I just know that she said somebody had killed somebody, or somebody had killed one of those animals also, and it was just one person, and she knew the person perfectly. She told me who it was. I can't recall who it was. I've been away for a couple of years, and I don't know the people personally. But this person was military personnel, and the Marina. The Marina is kind of like the Mexican version of the Marines here in the States. And this guy was on leave, and he came back to town to his family, and he went out to the mountains or whatever, and he got confronted by one of those animals, I think, and this guy shot it a bunch of times and brought it down. Now, this guy was up in the mountain with an AR-15, is what I was told, and he shot it a bunch of times, you know, and she tells the story that supposedly the animal ran after the first shot, but it's weird because Patricia says this animal wasn't a male, which I do not recall looking at the first Bigfoot or even looking at the one that the people killed in our town, looking if it had genitals or if it didn't. I don't recall looking at that. I do not, for one reason or another, do not recall that. But they said that the one that this guy shot at and chased because it ran, and he said he ran after it, and the animal fell off a little cliff. The Bigfoot, the big animal fell off a cliff, and it hurt itself, so he jumped or went around and shot it and killed it. And the military guy said it was a woman, like a woman Bigfoot, I think, if that makes any sense. And he killed it, and he called his, I don't even know if it's a colonel, his sergeant, whatever you want to call it. And when they found out, they automatically came. Everybody just kind of invaded our town. And there was such a big commotion about them coming into our town that our town people armed themselves and went and stopped them and said, "What do you want? What are you doing here? You know, you can't come into our town," because that's how our town is. It's peaceful, and we do not want people coming outside of town trying to influence our ways of being. Okay, if we have problems, we solve them by talking. But real small occasions. We're not a violent village or town by no means. We talk, we talk things out, we sit down as people and talk. Okay, and so when the military try coming in and they see them coming in by the bodega is a place that stores hay, huge place. You're talking about the acres of stuff there. I think it was like over 100 acres of land there. But you got to cross the bodega. And the bodega is just a big shed. They store hay there. You got to cross with it to get into our town. There's one way in and one way out. That's it. Somebody seen them as they were coming from a distance, ran and told somebody in town, that person in town and told everybody, and everybody just went out there with arms. They would not let him in. Until this guy that Patricia knows came out and told him, "Listen, I killed a Bigfoot. I called these guys. They're coming in to help me take it out. They're going to study it." And even then, there was some kind of commotion. They did not want to let him come in. Eventually, they agreed on it. They took it. But when they took it, a couple of weeks later, they came back. But they came with a lot of military people and went up into the mountains. People say they heard gunshots all night. But they did not see if they took more animals or not, or more Bigfoots. They should know they heard gunshots, and they could see the gunshots in the mountains at a distance, you know? And they're talking about it was two caravanas. Two caravanas are two, what do you guys call it in English? Two convoys? Like two big old trucks full of people?
Oh, yeah, like a convoy, like a posse? Or like a... Yeah.
I'm not sure. It's like a big trailer full of people. Just a big trailer that you could fit people in it.
Okay, well, a convoy is a group of vehicles that are traveling in the same direction, but this sounds like it's and this was military, right? Was there just one?
There was two of them. Two big trailers full of military personnel. Let's just say two big trailers of people, I guess. And they came in, they stayed 2 nights in those mountains. And like I said, I wasn't there for that. I just know what Patricia told me and what other people said. They went into the mountains sometime in the midnight, hours, or early morning hours. They started hearing gunshots, and they said there was a lot of gunshots, a lot of stuff. They do not know if they got any more grandes Bigfoots, as they call them, but they do know there was a lot of gunshots up in the mountain. Because people could hear it, and they can see the flashes here and there off in the distance. So now that the government still knows that we have these creatures, I believe that they're going to try to come in and invade our town more and more. That our people have yet to let them back in. They got into it.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you next, is that, here in the States, there tends to follow very closely of these encounters with folks, whether it be this dogman-like creature or Bigfoot. These government people tend to be right around the corner all the time. So I was just curious if you had witnessed any helicopters or anything like that into your area, but it sounds like you hadn't. It was just these Mexican authorities that came in there in this trailer.
Yeah, that's the only thing that I don't recall about helicopters. I'm sure that I can talk to Patricia and she can gain more information. I just know that Patricia mentioned to me, and this was within the past maybe 4 years that this happened, I think. But I do know Patricia said that the town people were really upset at the guy that was from the Marines because he brought more people to our town, and they went into the mountains and shot at things, and people were scared. Really what happened was they were scared that these creatures would come into our town and hurt us. And do you recall I told you about kids missing? Well, they found, I think, 2 bodies of kids with their heads taken off. Okay, I don't know. I hope you don't think I'm crazy when I say this, because this is another thing that, I mentioned this to one person one time before, and they said, who in the right mind would take somebody's head off? And I tried explaining to them, it wasn't like a person. It must have been the Bigfoot thing that did that, or even the Jones. I don't know. Okay, but they said the head was tore off. It wasn't cut off. It was tore off. Okay, and they found the body, but they didn't find the head. So we don't know if it's a giant, if it's a Bigfoot, whatever the scenario is. It sounds crazy. I did not see that myself personally, but people were scared that it was a Bigfoot thingy, and they choose what they wanted to call it, whatever they want to call it, because they said, look what it did to our kids. They retaliated, and they're trying to come and terrorize it because of what we're doing to them, and they just wanted to be left alone, so that's why they were fighting with the military that second time they tried to come in. But I don't know the exact details of the second time, if there's helicopters, or what it was. I should know that the chief told me the story, and I'm relating that to you. However, if here in the state, you said the government, yes. If you're going to think the government has a lot of power to do stuff like this, I don't doubt it as far as they want to silence people. Why? I don't know. The only thing I think is that maybe these people here or the government are experimenting with these animals. I truly believe that our government here in America, they're doing things with our genes, with our DNA, stuff like that. They're experimenting and making maybe even clones of people or making other creatures. I don't know, whatever they might be doing. I mean, they're scientists, they're experimenting things like this. Maybe they're trying to figure out what this animal is. Maybe they're trying to mix clones. Maybe they're trying to mix DNA. I don't know.
Right.
But I know in Mexico, it'd be too hard. I mean, our town is not by any time, or by any means or form of fashion, are going to let any government officials come into our town, you know?